Alright, so let's start lighting this level, because right now when we hit play, we cannot see a thing. Since we never have an exterior, we have no need for a directional light or anything in that sense. I'm just going to grab all these things real quick and create a folder and just call this geometry, just to put it all inside there. So we don't have to worry about any type of exterior light, which is really nice. So if we go to lit mode, you'll see that it's completely black right now except for the lights because they have an emissive material. First thing we want to do is create a light mass importance volume. So in classes, just search for light mass. We'll take this light mass importance volume right here. And I'm just going to go into top view, make it unlit. And we can just scale this up to enclose our entire scene. This kind of tells the engine where the lighting is most important, so it's better than having it try to do it everywhere. So just enclose the scene, go back into perspective, and that's all we need to do with that. I'm going to put it into a new folder called lighting, and I'm going to put the post-process volume in a folder called rendering. And this is door, can go to geometry. So how I think we should light the scene is just with some spotlights coming from all of these lighting assets. So for example, let's just get one light in here by going to lights and spotlight. And let's just kind of position it on this for now. Alright, that looks good. And if we go into lit mode already, you can see this creates a spotlight. And we are getting this exposure, and that's because I forgot one step, something that I talked about for quite a while when we first did the post-process, is I forgot to set this to unbound in the post-process. Now our lighting exposure is set to 1 at all times, and we have a perfectly clear view of what our lighting will look like. So we're going to change this source radius, which is the radius of the light source shape, and we're going to change it to something like 9. Oh, I'm going way too high on that. To kind of get the width of these 2 bars of light right here. And let's get this source length and extend it. We can see it's extending the wrong way, so we're going to rotate this 90 degrees. And I'm just going to extend it so it's about the length of our light right there. So about 100 works. Let's also make sure the light source is just slightly below the light itself so that it doesn't cast shadows, but I think it was fine where it was, but you know, can't be too careful. So next, what we want to do is take this outer cone angle, and this is just the cone of light. So you can see how it gets smaller and bigger with this. And I want to make this real wide, so something like 75. Since this is going to be our main sources of light, I'm just going to have these cover a pretty wide area. We can also adjust an inner cone, which kind of tells us where the fall off, where it gets from lighter to darker, should start. So everything in the inner cone is going to be at full brightness. So you can see if we put it all the way up, it's a very sharp line because it has no more fall off. And we don't want that because that doesn't look natural. But we can make it something relatively small, like 10 or 20. I'll just go ahead and go with 20. And even though it is a little dark at the moment, I'm actually going to turn the intensity down to about 4. Just because when we get all of the lights in, I think it'll be a bit more lit up. And I believe I mentioned this earlier, but a great balance you want to find when lighting a horror game, while most horror games are going to be dark, you want to make sure it's not impossible to see. It's another mistake I see across a lot of indie games, Sometimes it is just way too dark and it is impossible to play without the flashlight. And I'm still a strong believer that the flashlight should not be a 100% necessity for seeing in your game unless your game revolves around the flashlight. So you want to find that balance of you want to be able to see without the flashlight, but you want the flashlight to feel useful. So when it's this dark, I can still see in this section for sure, but if I have this flashlight, it makes it a lot easier. So you want to really just mess around with the intensity and find that balance. But I think it's good to mess with intensity once you put all the lights in so you can kind of see how the whole scene lights up. So let's go to world settings, and we want to go into light mass settings right here. And we have the static lighting level scale, and setting it lower than 1 is going to increase your build times when you build your lighting, but it's going to make the quality of the lighting better. The lower the number, the better the lighting quality. So you can definitely leave this at 1 if you want a less intensive build, but I'm going to go ahead and put mine all the way down to 0.25. So now we have this indirect lighting smoothness down here, which is the smoothness factor for indirect lighting. And it's actually important that this number times this number equals 1. So whatever you change this to, change this one accordingly. So 0.25, I'm going to change this one to 4, so that now equals 1. We also have this number of indirect lighting bounces, which is how many times the light will bounce around in the world. And we want to move this from 3 to about 10, so we'll get a lot more bounces in the world, and it will do a better job of just overall lighting our scene. If you have a skylight, you could do the same thing for the number of skylighting bounces, but we don't have a skylight since it is just for the interior. Alright, so let's put the rest of these spotlights in here. I'm going to change to unlit first, just so it's a little easier. And if you just hold down Alt and drag, it'll duplicate our object, and you can just drag out another one. And I'm just going to create more spotlights for these right here. So, just positioning, put it a little down. Okay. And we have another right there. Alt and drag. Perfect. Alt and drag. I have one above the stairs here. Rotate that 90 degrees. And I think I'll just speed up the rest so you don't have to watch me do this for every single one. Alright, so I've now put a light under every single light except for the one in this back room, which I chose a broken one, so I did not add a light in there. But it is totally up to you when you create your own scene. And you may be wondering why there's this red X over some of the lights we have over here. And that's because static lights in Unreal Engine can only have so many other lights that overlap with it. It can't have, I believe, more than 4 static lights overlapping. So what we actually have to do is we have to change all these lights to movable, which does decrease the quality of the lighting just a bit, but it won't be too much of a difference. So I'm just going to select all my lights right here and just hit movable under mobility. And now they should all be good and working. Also going to put them all into the lighting folder. Now if we go back to lit mode, you can see we have a much more lit scene. It is pretty dark, but it's not impossible to see, and the flashlight definitely helps a lot. Checking the the lights, making sure they all look good. I just realized there's no collision on this fence, so we can just walk right through it. And same with this one, that's funny. But other than that, it looks pretty good right now. In the world settings, I'm also going down to light mask settings, and I'm going to check use ambient occlusion, and then we are going to build our lighting. So on this little corner here, I'm going to change the lighting quality to medium. It's good to keep it at medium or preview when you're just working on the game. Production will take the longest, but it'll produce the highest quality. So you'll want to bake it at production before building your game. But I'm just going to put it at medium for now, and then I'm going to hit build lighting only. Now with these world settings, these light mask settings we added, it'll bake this into it, and it'll improve our lighting quality a bit. So now, after it's done, we can just ignore these. You might not notice too much of a difference, but we've improved the quality a bit with those light mask settings. All right, that's going to be it for this one. You're totally free to mess with any of those light mask settings as you wish, or just with the spotlight settings themselves. You can definitely, if you want, just increase the intensity to make it brighter or darker. You know, if I put them all at 8, it's a bit of a brighter scene. It's definitely a lot easier to see things, but the flashlight becomes kind of obsolete. So it's up to you how you want to do that. Anyway, I will see you in the next episode for post-processing.